2011, we started this business, my partners and I. I grew up actually in this industry. So my dad has a contracting company that's 103 years old. So it's always really been a huge part of my life. And then as I was getting older, I didn't really see a role for myself necessarily in his company. It wasn't where I kind of personally would have fit. So I started thinking of other ways, and I attended a lot of conventions growing up with them. And it kind of seemed like the ideal situation for me would be going into the sales and rentals of equipment. So I started this company on the side, and it's just continued to grow. We started out with concrete pumps primarily, and then we've grown into now Magik telehandlers and excavators, and continuing to add to that equipment fleet.
Yeah, how did you make the decision on concrete pumps? Did you see a market void, or was it just a passion, or?
Yeah, well, my dad is a concrete contractor, so that was kind of the background that I was familiar with growing up. And as I went to these different conventions, I started to realize most contractors don't own their own concrete pumps. And if you think of New York City, within one project, you could have needs for a 20 meter up to a 58 meter. So there would be no reason for a contractor to own all those sizes. But for us, we have most of our customers are the top concrete contractors in New York. So within, say, 20 to 30 different contractors renting within a week, they'll take every size. But it wouldn't, for one company to own all of those, they wouldn't utilize them enough to pay for them. Right. So it's easier for us. Everything gets to go out, but we service many different contractors throughout the state.
We've definitely seen kind of, and from, the telehandler and aerial equipment side, the shift of owning to renting for contractors. So, but it makes a lot of sense when it's a big piece of equipment like a concrete pump.
Yeah, it's the same with the telehandlers. If you have to get to, a smaller one like a 521 versus a 639, why would you own both when you can rent one for the month or two?
Right, exactly.
However long you need it.
Yeah. And how many employees do you have right now?
There's only 7 of us. So we have a pretty small business, initial team, just between the office staff, sales, and mechanics, because we're just renting the bare equipment. So we don't have any operators on our payroll.
I gotcha. And then and it was 2011 when you founded the company. Is that correct?
2011, yeah.
Okay, great. So 10 years, celebrating your 10-year anniversary after one of the worst years of our history. So
yes, definitely. It's been interesting, but it's been good in the scheme of things.
Yeah, and that's kind of just exactly what I was going to move into. Obviously, 2020 was a year that we'd never expected to happen, and how did the pandemic affect your business? Good, bad, ugly? Did you stay in business during it? Were you essential?
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. The reality of it, most of our work's New York City. So as it hit our country, it was hitting us directly. So the reality of it was really difficult. A lot of work slowed and stopped, but the majority of our work was essential. So we were pretty lucky considering everything. Things were slower, so we had to make adjustments, but we got through. We were able to keep up on our notes and all of the main payments, and in the scheme of things, I think we're turning out better off for it. We've become a lot more efficient over the last 2 years.
That's fantastic. So then, do you have processes and procedures in place that you put in place when COVID started that have continued on?
Yeah, I think we have, the biggest thing for us was obviously cleanliness and organization, because equipment's going in and out constantly. So the sanitizing when it got here and when it went back out, we wanted to make sure, God forbid, somebody on one job site was infected and something came back here. We didn't want it spreading through our team or going on to another contractor. So we're still keeping up with that cleanliness. A few things we put into place during the worst of COVID have kind of gone away, but it has helped me we're really seeing what's utilized most over the last 2 years, and I've gotten to move on some older equipment we're not using as much. So,
okay.
yeah.
And so then, you were in business during it all. How do you see the rest of this year playing out for your company? And then taking a look into next year, do you see the market kind of back to what it was pre-COVID, or what's your thoughts on how it will be?
Yeah, I think things are, in our area at least, pretty much back to where they were. I'm hearing from contractors a lot of projects are going out for bid, but not much is being awarded quite yet. So at the moment, I think that's a concern where we're going to be, we're lucky to be on a lot of long-term projects at this point. But if things aren't being awarded now, I wonder a little bit what next winter will look like. But it's going to be a process, and we'll just keep kind of kicking through it best we can.
Well, do you have any idea as to what the lag between those projects being awarded is?
I do think a lot of it comes from a good majority of our business is infrastructure. So we do a lot of the bridges and a lot of MTA work and stuff like that. So the MTA was hit pretty hard through all of this. Schools and stuff are going out for bid but not being awarded. So I think a little bit's the reality of where New York is economically, and what we end up getting from the infrastructure bill that Biden's passing.
What are some of the trends the rental industry is facing currently and that are to come?
For us specifically, I can't say for the industry as a whole, but for us, it's been adding different types of equipment. People now realizing we have equipment, so they're asking for more. So I'm doing a lot of research trying to figure out what our customers need, and what we can provide for them.
And so you definitely have some plans to expand your fleet then in the coming years.
Yeah, that's the plan. So we're right now we have a few excavators. We're looking to add some bigger excavators like M322s and stuff in that size range, as well as some smaller things. So some mini excavators people are asking a lot about, and other lifts for sure. A few people are asking into that space now that we're pretty known for the telehandlers, and little skid steers, stuff like that. Just other pieces of equipment that can benefit our customers as well.
Definitely. So becoming a full rental operation then, yeah.
It's been a lot of, it's been a big change from what my initial thought was when we started the business. But I guess that's part of the growth and kind of adapting to what your customers need and want.
Absolutely. And so what's competition like for our rental pumps?
It's an interesting word for me. We're a small company. Like I said, there's only 7 of us. I'm never going to be able to compete with like the big companies on a equal scale. So I think for me, it's more so looking at what our customers need and trying to give them the best customer service. So we're the choice they make rather than the bigger rental houses.
that relationship that is personal. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they know they can call me in the middle of the night if they had to. If there was an emergency, we'd get something out there as soon as we can. I hope that trust will kind of steer them to using us more so than, say, one of the very, very big names.
Yeah. Lots of big names and making lots of buyouts. Recently it's kind of like I'm seeing the M&A activity pick up with the big ones. And do you worry about that? Or is it you kind of, you'll stay on doing what you're doing and don't want to be, bought out or anything?
Yeah, it's always a thought. I think still my company's so young. We're just 10 years old. So I think I still have a good amount of time to continue growing and evolving this business before I'd really consider that. I guess realistically, if anyone were to make an offer, it's something you have to consider, but I'm hoping my company, we're also WB certified. So we're certified by the state. So I think that's a lot of the value in our business is the fact that I'm here and running the show, and something that a bigger company that might be interested in us couldn't continue with because of the ownership scales.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I noticed, did you get your WBE right when you founded the company, or was it a process? And
No, it's a process. So you have to be in business at least a year before you can apply. I believe a year, maybe 3 years. I didn't apply till 2015. Initially, we didn't have the it wasn't something that I thought of when I started the business either. But we didn't have the equipment to keep up with somebody who really could be beneficial to a lot of contractors. So early on, for a contractor, it would make a lot of sense to get their WB immediately because it'll give them a lot more advantage. For us, we just rent the equipment, so they can't get credit for labor or anything like that. So I needed to build the company. I believe I was probably about 10 or 12 assets by the time I applied. And now we're over 40, but it's been a good few years. But early on for us, we have such a different field house than a contractor who would have that minority status that it took me a while to get to where I wanted the company to be before I even approached the state, to be able to know we were successful and could handle whatever a customer would ask of us.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. And kind of going into a technology standpoint of things, do you utilize telematics or rental software for your fleet? And if so, how has that helped your business and how is it changing?
There's a lot within this industry going in the technology route. I've actually, through COVID, joined the American Rental Association, and they have a lot of really great webinars and courses on different various types of telematics and technology that we can start using and utilizing. My mechanic's really great, and he uses quite a bit within the equipment itself. The things I deal with primarily are the GPS and our dispatch program and stuff like that. And the GPS has been a huge help because customers all the time will call and say, oh, do you have a log of where this machine was for the last month, or things like that. So it's been helpful. I think there's a lot more we can do with it. But
there's so much with, data and telematics. It can become very, very overwhelming very quickly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm enjoying the ARA has such great resources that I can learn about them, because again, like as a smaller rental company, I don't know everything somebody who's been doing it for 30 years would have. There's a lot I can learn from people within our peer group through the ARA, and just different people I meet along the road. There's so much I can learn and see what they're utilizing and how I can adjust that to what we do and make our business better.
Yeah, great. So was it 2018 when you started purchasing Magnis, or was it before that?
2016.
Okay,
yeah.
2016. I got that wrong. Sorry about that. So why did you decide to go with the Magni brand?
But the first time I heard about them was actually through my brother. And my brother, I mean, he's brilliant. He knows the ins and outs of every truck, airplane, ship. Like, it's just how he's wired. And I want to say it was a holiday, came home and was like, oh, you guys have to look up this machine. It's brilliant. It's this little telehandler. It's made in Italy. So I started researching, and he was pretty convinced that it was going to be a must-have for every project in New York. And for him to say that, I had to take some sort of a closer look into it. So I started to really research it. And the Magni family themselves have known telehandlers. And then when they started this business, they took everything they knew and made it even better. So it's very clearly the safest telehandler out there on the market these days. For us specifically in New York City, we have such weight limits and size restraints. So to have this little compact machine that can do so many different things, it's a no-brainer for us.
It can do everything almost, like, yeah. Exactly. And so how do the Magnis complement then your, concrete pump fleet?
They go hand in hand in a lot of ways. So if you just think of a concrete contractor per se, obviously they need the pump to place the concrete, but what are the steps to get there? You're setting forms, you're putting in rebar. These are all things they do with the Magni, and they can leave it in one spot for however long they need it, rotate 360, load whatever they need, bring it back, bring it up to the 4th floor, and then the pump's there as soon as they're ready for it to actually place the concrete. But all the prep work comes from the Magni.
Are you looking to get bigger units or go smaller, compact in the future, or are you just looking for that sweet spot and will remain there?
Yeah, I think kind of with the pumps, you need a little bit of everything. So the smallest we have is a 521. The largest reach we have is a 639. The highest capacity at the moment is an 825. So we have kind of with our pumps, you have a little bit of everything. And I mean, one project specifically, I think they have 4 or 5 from us right now. So they have everything from that 825 down to, I think, a 525. But it seems those 630s, 635s are kind of that sweet spot. So we definitely have the most in there.
You guys just recently supplied that little island job in New York City. So can you just kind of walk me through that and what details you have, the scope and size of the project, why Magnis were beneficial, and anything else that's relevant?
Yeah, of course. It was a really interesting project. So before it even started, I went out there with our sales manager, and you go through the old New York piers and you hear the history of all of that. And then you find out that, honestly, I don't know who funded it, but whoever was funding it, it was a privately funded park that he was building that was meant to be floating in the river. So if you look at pictures, there's a lot of really interesting precast concrete and architectural concrete work that built this island over the river. It's beautiful to look at. But the biggest thing there was we had a lot of weight restraints. We had a very tight space because it's a manufactured world, basically. You could imagine in New York City the tight spaces, but now you have, I'd say, 4 or 5 different contractors working at the same time, doing various different things in man-made space. So they were really great machines there. We had probably at some time, I'd say we had 5 there for 3 or 4 different contractors. They went from doing concrete work of doing forms and even placing concrete with the booms, with the buckets, to a landscaper was bringing up topsoil to higher levels that they couldn't reach and placing trees. And there's really not much these machines can't do. So
wholly versatile. That's, the Swiss Army knife of the construction site almost.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. So I think I have a picture somewhere of 3 of them at the same time working, but it was such a great machine for that project specifically.
And how long was the project?
I would say about 1.5 to 2 years. I know it got started back pretty early within COVID. It got shut down for a few weeks when the worst of the worst happened here. But it was one of the first ones back up and running and fully opened, I'd say, about a month or 2 ago. And it's just spectacular. It's a really interesting place to go visit.
Yeah, I've only seen pictures. Maybe I'll get there one day.
One day.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the MTA project. Do you have Magnis on any other sites right now?
Third Track is a big customer for us. They have 3 or 4, I believe, at this point. We have a few on some pretty big roads. The Van Wyck, I think, has one at the moment. LaGuardia Airport has a few. Belmont, it's now it's not just the racetrack now it's going to be the Islanders' new stadium. They've had quite a few of ours as well as other companies. So it's
got a bunch out there.
Yeah, they're kind of a little bit all over the place. There's some at National Grid. A little bit all over.
And Samantha, we really kind of went over my main questions, but I had a couple of just kind of fun ones, or maybe not fun, but what's your management philosophy?
Management, it's I think for me, it's such a team effort here. We need the right people in the right places. So we use actually this program called the Predictive Index that is really helpful when we're interviewing people, because everyone's wired to have strengths in different ways. Like I could never be a bookkeeper. I could do it, but I wouldn't be successful at it because I like variety and I like to talk to people. And the person who's wired for that is much more of an introvert and they like that routine every day. So that's a big part of when we hire people, making sure we have the right person for the right role. A lot of it's relationships. It's just making sure everybody's supported best they can be, and whatever, it's an open conversation. We have such a small team that even the yard guy could give me a call and say, hey, I could really use this. Could you help me with that? And we'll find a way to get it done. So you kind of have to bounce off each other. Like if I'm doing something, my assistant's helping me in another way, and the bookkeeper might take something over, or sales manager if I'm away. And if he's away, I'm doing a lot of his work, and it's just kind of part of it. That's, I think, the biggest part of making sure you have the right team, that if I can't be here for something, I have full trust that they're going to handle it. And if they have a problem, they'll text me or they'll call me, and we're going to get it done whatever way we possibly can. May not be exactly how I would do it, but the end result will be the same.
Exactly. My last question is, when you're not working all around the clock, what do you do in your spare time?
I'm a competitive horseback rider, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's something I've done my whole life. While the business has gotten started, I've definitely kind of pulled back. I'd say probably about a year ago, I started showing again, but for about 2 years, I just didn't have the time for it. So that's, if I could make money doing that, it would be great, but I can't.
For more on our rental pumps and the Little Island project, see the August-September issue of Access Lift and Handlers.